Welcome back. Today we will discuss on Unit 2, that is understanding rural environment. There are two parts. Unit 2 we will discuss rural environment 1. Unit 3 we will again discuss rural environment. After the discussion we will be able to learn what is rural environment, and we will again analyze the challenges in rural environment. We will identify the elements of rural environment, discuss its component like political, social and technical environment. Finally, we will get to know the implication of the rural environment for marketers. Let's go for the introduction. If you try to understand what is rural environment, it is made up of various economic, political, social and technical forces. We will discuss this in detail as they are the important format of decision making perspective. Rural India is diverse and dynamic. Why the word diverse is associated? Because you cannot understand rural India in one set of lines. Economic activities drive interactions. There are a lot of economic activities. Last session we discussed all those farm jobs, agriculture jobs, non-farm jobs, etc. Then environment shapes the development. Three types of economic flow exist in rural environment. Rural environment influence consumer behavior and marketing effectiveness because we are targeting to do the marketing activities in rural belt of any your country or any other one. We are targeting being the marketers. We are targeting to introduce our product, to sell our product, to find the consumer, and to understand the need of the consumer. So there are three types of economic flow. Let's understand each flow in detail. Movements of goods occurs across rural to rural, urban to rural, and rural to urban. Rural to rural, we may call it the transaction of goods, or the economic flow depends majorly our local produce markets. Rural environments are not static, they are shaped by multiple flows. These movements happen in three ways like rural to rural, urban to rural, and rural to urban. Rural are the products basically produced in the agricultural field. Farmers selling their nearby villages, the vegetables, the grains, the whatever pulses they are producing in their agricultural land, they used to visit the nearby villages and sell their produce. The next flow is urban to rural. This includes basically FMCG and FMCD products, that is fast moving consumer goods and fast moving consumer durable products. Sometimes services are also there that involves the movement or economic flow from urban to rural. That means these are the economic flows from city to village. If a village person wants to buy a fridge, he has to visit the city to purchase it. And if he has to do a banking transaction, he has to visit the cities for that. So the movement of urban to rural includes major three products that are those are FMCG, FMCD and services. Another economic flow is rural to urban, the other side of flow. That includes what? That includes supply of agricultural products to urban mandis. That is a common scenario for everyone. You understand what is called mandi. Whenever they harvest their produce, they used to visit the nearby mandis to sell this produce to the local vendors. After that, that produce goes to the local market. So understanding these flows helps marketers understand both the supply and demand challenges in rural areas. The question may arise here, why, what is the importance of understanding these three economic flow? Because you are the marketer, tomorrow you want to sell your product. If you don't understand what are these three flows, how will you enter into what type of distribution channel? Each movements of goods includes a type of distribution channel. So the marketers needs to understand what is the particular distribution channel he has to focus to do his marketing activities. We all know marketing activities include introducing your product, doing advertisement, taking feedback, understanding the acceptance rate for the product. So being a marketer, you need to understand what kind of product you are having and what distribution channel out of these three economic flow you can adapt. So let's understand the first channel, rural to rural movement. This includes what? Small villages to larger ones. They used to carry their produce. Suppose, let's say, it's a small scale farmer. He has produced some vegetables. So where he will go? Will he go to a mandi to sell a little amount of vegetables? So he will go to a larger village. So this is known as rural to rural movement. He will go to the nearby villages that may be a larger one than his own village. So the produce of his field or the harvest of his field, he will go and sell in the nearby village. So nearby village. So this type of economic flow is known as rural to rural movement. Local markets and agents. Let's understand this in detail. Sometimes the farmers used to harvest their own produce, then they used to sell the produce. Let's say it is the vegetables one, they will sell to the local agents. The agents will buy those produce, they will sell to the different market of nearby cities, nearby villages. So the understanding of rural to rural movement is goods often move from smaller to larger villages. Farmers sell produce locally due to limited access to the big market. So there is a challenge. What is the challenge? Because the farmers cannot visit, cannot go smoothly to the cities. There is constraint on the roads, on the infrastructure, on the logistic part. So the farmers choose to sell their product to the nearby villages. So this type of movement is known as rural to rural movement. Next movement is urban to rural. So this is what? Cities to rural, cities to villages. So you can also think what the village people are going to buy from the cities. Definitely it is FMCD or any services, let it be a banking services, hospital services, or they want any product for their cultivation or agricultural need, they will go for that. So in this particular economic movement, products like branded goods and services. Suppose if a farmer want to purchase an Android phone, he, for that particular need, he will visit to the city store. Then he will purchase an Android phone for his activities. He will connect with the social media, he will connect with the expert of agriculture. That is his need. For that, he is going to the city store to purchase an Android phone. That is a branded goods. Same also, suppose somebody is going for a medical services, he will go to the cities for that. Somebody is going to open an account in bank, somebody is going to purchase a SIM card, somebody is going to purchase the tractors, the automobiles, the sprinklers for the agricultural land. For this kind of needs and the products matching with this kind of needs, the people from village are moving to the cities. This economic flow is known as urban to rural movement. A large part of this movement that happens are basically urban to rural for high value ticket items. This high value ticket items means the goods they are going to purchase is having are generally expensive. Sometimes they also visit for their everyday used FMCG that are manufactured and distributed through large organized industrial enterprises. The urban to rural movement has been a long standing one. It was existing, it is existing, and it will remain in future also. The next one is rural to urban movement. This is, we have already discussed, transport of grains, fruits, vegetable and supply to urban mandis. The rural to urban has been one of the agricultural produce like grains, fruits, vegetables that are moving from rural market or village market or individual produce market to urban mandis. One of the largest mandi in Asia is Ajadpur Fruits and Vegetable Mandi. That it is the main source that collect all the production of entire country and distribute it. So this is known as rural to urban. By this slide we understood two types of economic movement. First is rural to urban, then urban to rural. Let's understand the evolution of rural market and how rural market has been evolved. Before 1970, let's discuss this period. Before 1970s, rural markets lacked infrastructure and genuine products. It was almost 50 years back. Definitely, there were challenges for the infrastructure development. Let it be road, let it be logistic, let it be information about the mandis or the selling platforms. So, major challenge before 1970 period was lagged infrastructure. Even if they're producing good quantity of fruits, vegetables, and grains, they were not able to sell their products due to the problems or the challenges of infrastructure. And another challenge was existing that time. Those are known as genuine products challenge. Many fake products were there that time in market. Marketing reach was almost negligible. This is the era when the rural markets were largely in transformative stage and were limited in terms of reach and potential. That means rural marketing as a concept, rural markets as a platform were in the stage of transformation, because one activity was well established that time, rural to rural, where people used to barter their products. Also, somebody has produced grain and he needs some fruits, so he used to do a kind of system. In exchange of grain, some other farmer is giving him the fruits or the vegetables. So they used to depend for the same villages. Sometimes they move to large villages, sometimes to cities. These are some few restricted channels of selling their product. During the era of 1970s, these rural markets were in the transformative stage, where they had started taking a few initiatives to change the structure, to enhance the logistic part, to introduce new initiative to sell the product in a larger scale. So we can understand, before 1970, the operation of rural markets, operations at rural markets were limited, restricted due to the challenges of lagged infrastructure and genuine products. After 10 years, during 1980s, Green Revolution happened. So Green Revolution was dedicated to agricultural boost. Companies had started entering rural markets. So with the advent of Green Revolution, things started changing from rural markets, and marketers started realizing the potential of the region. So rural market has started gaining attraction from the marketers. Some of the companies like Hindustan Unilever, Colgate family, Dabur, to name some of they have started exploring the market and gradually made inroads. That means what? Let's understand the concept also. During the phase of 1970, the restriction was there on selling channels. Slowly after, during 1980s, Green Revolution happened. So there were more production on agricultural land. So when there were more production, they started looking for option to sell that. So this had made a transformation in rural markets. So companies have started entering the rural market. If you can remember your old good days, during your childhood, you must have used the toothpaste that is known as Colgate, white colored tube, Colgate. If you remember that time, hardly any competitor was existing for Colgate. But if you compare it today, we are having lots of brand for a product like toothpaste. So Hindustan Unilever has cracked that. He understood rural belt is a potential marketplace to sell new products. They have understood the need of the villages. They have understood the potential need of the villages. So they have started entering into rural market during the period of 1980s, especially after Green Revolution. During 1990s, economic reforms took place. The era of 1980s is perhaps when the rural markets burst onto the scene of a bigger way and forced the marketers to take a notice. By that time, rural market was slowly started establishing itself as a real market format. During 1970, it was not established. During 1980s, a few companies have entered into rural market. So after 20 years from 1970, during the period of 1990, rural market was like somewhat established. In terms of purchasing power, every employer, Villagers had a good amount of money in their pocket, so they have high purchasing power. They were stable and become big ticket consumer. That means they have the capacity to purchase high value product. The two-wheeler market boomed along with the television and the host of other related products. So people have started using two-wheeler for better business operations. The roads were made by that time, so the businessman who is residing in village or the farmer who wants to sell his grain, he can easily drive a two-wheeler to reach the city and to reach the mandi situated located at city. So two-wheeler market, the company of selling two-wheeler, they have started entering into the village market or the rural market. The introduction of television, where the informations were largely broadcasted, information on agricultural activities, information on pricing initiative, these information have started reaching the farmers and reaching the small businessman who used to reside in a village. So during 90s, we can simply understand the format, the structure, the operation was really established or somewhat noticeably established. After that, we are in the era of 2000. It was largely marked by smartphones, internet. Before smartphones, during the era of 2000, let's say 10 years back, internet was established. Simple, the clear meaning of internet in villages is lots of information to the marketer, to the consumer, or to the farmer. The era of 2000 and beyond, it was a shift in use of smartphones and boom in information and communication technology. Rural consumers now realize the potential of connectivity and access to usable information. Gradually, with the advent of fintech, JAM, Jandhan, Aadhaar, and mobile integration, and the continued Manegra scheme of government, the perspective started changing. Simple understanding: during 2000, we all know internet was in rapid use. So when it comes to internet, it is all about information. When it comes to the higher uses of internet in rural belt, people are exposed to available information. So they have started understanding the importance of connectivity, connecting with each other, connecting for the larger benefit. So they used to serve the internet to collect the data on their collect the data for their business and collect the data where they could sell their products likewise. So gradually fintech, that is financial services through technology, Jandhan Aadhaar, mobile integration and Manegar scheme, that is the government scheme, those have given the sufficient boost to the marketer to introduce their products and made the consumer educated about the products and product knowledge. After COVID-19, perhaps it was the time or best time for the rural market as agriculture boomed and suddenly the wide open spaces of rural areas were the perfect antidote for the COVID infection. During that time, only dependency was to collect the information through social media, through internet, because people were restricted in their homes and how they could sell their products. So social media was the only distribution channel. Likewise, this was the development during the era of 2000. So all of you have understood how the economic flows happened in rural markets, rural village. There are three types of economic flows: rural to rural, rural to urban, and urban to rural. So now if you want to do a practical exercise, you can visit your local mandi where grains and vegetables are stored and understand how the following heads are covered and populate the table. First column is having fruits and vegetables sold. You can do it on a day basis, or you can also collect the data for a month also for clarity and understanding. So first column, you can fill the data by discussing with the vendor what type of fruits and vegetables they are selling and where they are sourcing the fruits and vegetables from which nearby village and what are the rates per item wise and who is purchasing that, that is the buyer profile. After that, APMC control or government control, what is the responsibility of the government, what are the rules and regulation of government on selling and buying process. And finally, the last column is on tax structure. You can also note down the tax so that you can easily understand the net benefit or the net loss. If you have time, you can go to your nearby mandi and you can understand these three flow of economic flows by doing these simple activities, and you can also gain the knowledge or the practical knowledge or the workable knowledge from the vendors, because without understanding business also they are doing the business and they are learning by doing by themselves. Okay, this is the first environment we have done. Second environment is political environment. Now the question is, for a business, how politics matters, because we cannot deny that villages are largely powered or influenced by political environment. Can we deny that? The answer is no. The politics of the state defines how the people and their lives matter, because politics is defining their individual life. Buying and selling is a part of their individual life. They have their individual need for that they are buying. They have their own productions or produce of the agricultural land, so they need to sell it. If politics is impacting their individual life, so also the business is impacted by politics. For example, the cotton plantation farmers of Maharashtra or the grain producing farmers of Punjab and Haryana, along with Western Uttar Pradesh, may be able to influence the politics of the center. And on the other hand, the farmers from the eastern part of the country may have much lower share of voice. We all know Punjab and Haryana are the states having maximum production of wheat, and these farmers of Punjab and Haryana are in fact the influential farmers, considering them as a large scale businessmen. They can manipulate the politics, they can influence the politics, they can also direct the politics of their particular region. But if you compare this power with the eastern part of your country or our country, you will find farmers are not having that strength in their voice. They are having much lower share of voice, considering their share in production or agricultural land produce. So, political environment is the critical factor to understand for a marketer while focusing on rural markets. Let's understand political market in detail. Rural politics is also known to influence sufficient number of decision and political favors for their respective villages. The local MP or MLA, to appease the rural vote bank, will gladly accept to favor the tide where his vote bank is. Simple understanding. If the local MP and MLA knows how to appease the villagers, he can be the influencer for the decision making while it comes to trading. Suppose someone wants to purchase a simple toothpaste for the day to day need. If the influencer has a strong voice, this brand is good, this brand is not good, it will have a strong impact on the buying behavior of the villager just to buy a product of 10 or 20 rupees. So political leaders are influential to that in details also. The second part is caste and religion, still important in your village life. Caste and religion form basis of rural political agenda, and parties in most rural areas have very distinct political setups based on caste and religious group. They used to enhance their vote banks based on caste and religion. Though these are not healthy decision making factors, but we cannot avoid, we cannot deny these are existing visibly, remarkably in rural markets. In our country, 28 states and 8 union territories, and each state unto itself has the traits of a small country. Rural institutions have long existed at an informal and formal level, and they have played a critical role in the development of the rural sector. In India, the panchayat and the village pradhan or the sarpanch were always in charge of the village. Likewise, we have discussed in point number 1 political leaders can influence the buying behavior of the consumer. If the sarpanch is the decision maker and the villagers are not having that level of education to understand the product, sarpanch will behave like the influencer for the person to trade or to buy or to sell. To tackle this diversity of the country, the concept of Panchayati Raj was introduced. So, basic understanding of rural politics is that we cannot avoid. Who cannot avoid? The marketers. Who wants to do business in rural belt? He cannot avoid or close eyes to political environment that are closely associated with individual buying behavior. The Panchayati Raj system is a major success in rural India. It gives power to local people through village, block level, and district level councils. It was started under 73rd Amendment. It ensures regular elections every 5 years and reserves seats for SC, ST, and women candidates. Panchayat help plan and carry out development work like roads construction, water availability, school opening, and health service in villages. So when they are working at a larger scale or the group level or at the group level, so they are also making decision whether roads will be constructed or not, developed or not, water availability will be there to every houses or not. So when they are taking larger decisions, people or the villagers or the consumers of the village slowly get dependent on them for their individual buying behavior also. They can also collect local taxes and manage village resources. So this makes the clarity that panchayat has a large impact on village as a group, as a whole, purchase behavior or buying behavior. Sometimes politicals, panchayats have brought real changes to village. So automatically the dependency or the people of village will depend on the decision making of panchayat, sarpanch. Even if they want to purchase a TV, they will consult with them. Then they will go to the city store. Even they also guide them for a particular store of the city where they can purchase the TV. So these are the examples. So the marketers cannot close his eye or cannot avoid the political environment of the village because it is quite influential in nature. Let's understand Panchayat Raj in detail. It was developed to provide a three-tier system of Panchayat Raj for all states with a population over 2 million. It holds Panchayat election regularly every 5 years to provide reservation of seats for scheduled castes, scheduled tribes and women, to appoint state finance commission to make recommendation with regard to financial powers of Panchayat, to constitute a district planning committee to prepare a draft development plan of the district. As per the constitution, panchayats shall be given powers and authority to function as an institution of self-government. Preparation of a plan for economic development and social justice, implementation of schemes for economic development and social justice in relation to the 29 subjects given in the 11th schedule of the Constitution, to collect and appropriate taxes, duties, tolls, and fees. What is the understanding of this? If the panchayat is responsible for all these activities, they will remain or they remain as the influencer for these villages while they go for purchase decisions. Naturally, it will happen due to human psychology. The villager who is close to the person who is as a part of Panchayati Raj or a Panchayat or a Sarpanch, they usually guide the villages for health service. They also guide the villages for the banking services. They also guide the villages where their children are going to have education in cities. So everywhere, the life of villagers, the life of rural consumer is closely associated with the influencer or the political leader or the sarpanch or the person who is in charge of developing the entire village in terms of infrastructure, in terms of services. So their lives are closely associated with their recommendation, suggestion, and guidance. So that is the reason the marketers can consider these fellows or these persons are the influencers or the person behind the buying behavior of the village people. Again, the system of panchayati rajas or political environment is was sensitized in Rafael Bulte's work. He wrote a book on understanding India where he clarified two beautiful things. He pointed out the five critical issues to help Indian people or to understand a vast nation like India. The five factors are its diversity. We are a diverse country with multiple languages, multiple ways of living, with multiple religion and multiple thought process. But we cannot change or we cannot force somebody to change his thinking pattern, his living style, or his thought process, or the trust on some kind of religion. The depth of the culture is again another critical factor to understand India. For example, if you want to sell raincoat in desert, being a marketer, you have to find out the different properties of raincoat to sell it or to create the need of a raincoat in desert. We can use it for the sandstorms, but originally raincoats are made for the rain purpose. But because India is diverse in nature, it is having geographical diversity. Some part is desert, some parts are having heavy rain in Kerala. So being a marketer, you have to think innovatively how you can sell your product in the diverse geographical region of India so that you can earn good profit. Same also. If you are producing your fruits, vegetable, grains, you can tap the untapped market of rural market by understanding their need, and sometimes their need is also rooted in the depth of their culture. For example, we can take the culture of Odisha. During the month of June and July, they used to celebrate a local function that is known as Rajma. So during this time, they used to do a lot of baking in Indian style. They used to make different type of sweet dishes. So at that time, a village is in a huge need of rice and grains. That is a particular time during the month of June. The marketer can tap that, can innovatively enter into the village market to make available to the households the requirement of or the requirement size of their greens. They want rice to make sweet dishes, to do some kind of particular known as pitas. So the marketer can tap that particular need of the villages because it is rooted in their culture. A land of minorities. It is also a land of minorities. We can crack their needs. We can crack their requirements so that the marketer can develop the products. Likewise, India's future depends on the interaction between two worlds, the cities of India and the rural India. So beautifully it was written. You cannot avoid the rural belt of India. India can have the success if India is having the harmony in interaction between two worlds of India. One is city India and another is rural India. If urban life of India can understand what is the requirement of rural life can understand what is the requirement of urban life in terms of their food items, their daily required grain items, fruits, vegetables, and urban life can understand what are their day-to-day requirement in terms of product and services, India can achieve the success. Poverty, spirituality, and modernity mix and coexist. Beautifully, it is again notified, or he has written it. Poverty is still there, but luckily we are slowly getting out of that. And we cannot deny that India is a spiritual land. Everybody has a set of spiritual belief. If marketer is not considering the dimension like spirituality, he may not reach or he may not get its objective of selling products. If you consider there is a whole lot market for spiritual beliefs, There are a lot of puja dukans available in every gullies and every chalk. There are a lot of if you visit to temples, you will see local vendors are selling diyas, ghee, and battis. And if you ever try to discuss with them, they will narrate the whole story of their business, linking to the spiritual belief. The business is happening on a day-to-day basis. Sometimes modernity is also started existing. Rather, it is coexisting with the spiritual belief and poverty. Slowly, people at village have started accepting the modernity in their lifestyle. For example, if city people are celebrating their birthday by cutting a cake, so cake shops are available in cities. If you check right now, even village people have started celebrating birthdays by cutting cakes. So slowly, the orders from city cake shops, or even I have seen few cakes up in big villages for the celebration purpose. So this is how they are coexisting. Sell a cake to celebrate a function at village was a dream before 20 years. So they are now, but at this phase 2025, they have started adapting it so the marketers can sell their product. In the fourth point, he points out some extremely critical points like urban and rural that India is having. Cities are modern, fast changing, while villages follow some old tradition. India's success depends on both working together, as in the expansion of education, the reduction of literacy, and the extension of the average lifespan, the introduction of some basic healthcare, and the sustenance of democratic political system. If all these factors coexist in harmony, India will definitely gain the success in terms of business, in terms of overall growth. When they do not connect effectively, what will happen? India is in trouble. As with this population numbers, we cannot control the entire business market. We cannot afford job. We cannot create jobs for everyone. So slowly, unemployment will slowly happen, arise on the surface level. For marketers, it is important to understand how village politics works. We have discussed it in length. Who the local leaders are, like Sarpanch, your MP, MLA, and how people make decision through them. This helps in building trust and doing business better in rural areas. So the entire understanding is that India being a diverse country, having two parts. One is rural part, one other is urban part. Marketers needs to have a clarity in understanding how these two parts are connecting with each other, how they are interacting with each other, how better profit can be earned through an effective interaction between rural India and urban India. Many examples we have discussed, like rural belt is dependent on urban belt for FMCG and FMCD products and some other services like health service or banking service. Urban is dependent on rural market for their day-to-day consumption of grains, fruits, and vegetables. So it is the way they behave with each other. So marketer has to understand the coexistence of both the world of India and their behavioral exchanges between their production or between their services. To understand this in more practical level, there is an activity for you. Try and visit the Panchayat website and understand the kind of activities that the minister pursues. Take a note of especially the schemes which are developed for the village people and make a note of that scheme. Same. How many of them are aware of you? Do you think these schemes are beneficial for the people in the region in light of discussion that we had right now? What are the challenges in the scheme implementation? That means you are going to do a secondary survey. You have to visit the website and try to understand, because we understood Panchayat Raj in bit. So if you're going and visiting the website given here, you will get to know what is the power of Panchayat, what they are doing, what are the government scheme they are implementing in villages, If the implementation is happening, are these beneficial for the villages or not? If you are going and understanding all those, you will clearly understand why political environment is important in terms of or in context of doing business in rural market. By these slides, we have understood the economic flow in rural belt. We have understood the political environment also. Now we are going to understand the social environment. Social environment is what? It refers to the dimension of issues which are related to the society about lives and livelihoods. A human being is a social animal. We all live in society. We are continuously interacting with our neighbors, with our sarpanch, with our political leaders, with our kids, with our elderly people. So we cannot deny that all these interactions are not having an impact on business processes or buying behavior. Social environment will help us in understanding the issues related to women, child development, and marginalized section of the society. If we understand the society of the consumer, we'll get to know what are their needs. Rural people are roughly divided among the higher caste and the Dalits and the lower caste and the religious minorities. Religious minorities, we have sufficient idea about that. Some are Hindus, some are Muslims, are having different religions. There are also the landowners versus the land cultivators. Farmers are usually not the landowners. Few farmers are providing their services to the landowners. So there are again diversity. There is again diversity in this. Few are landowners, few are the cultivators for them, where there are a distinct set of activities which are being done by this set of people. Finally, we have the women and the children who form an ecosystem for their own that needs deliberation. We cannot avoid, we cannot ignore the women and children of the society of rural belt. Much of the social environment emerged from the rural economic structure, quite clear. Whatever job, farming job, non-farming job, asset owning they have, what they own as their asset, that determines their social culture or social environment. If in a village all are farmers, they have a different society. If in a village there are a mix of farmers, non-farmers, mix of business owners, small business owner, large business owner, some educated people are also there. So the culture of that particular village will be definitely differ. So to understanding the social environment is also a critical factor for the marketer. Rural economic structures, as we discussed, it is basically a farm sector and non-farm sectors. If you come down to farm sectors, it is having agriculture and animal husbandry. Some are having that particular, they are having their own production of milk by through their cattle, and there are someone is also having a fish cultivation, or the someone else is having poultry. So these are the part of agriculture. Next, they are having horticulture, forestry, and fishing. If you come to non-farm sector, rural industries and rural services, broadly divided into rural industries and rural services. Agro processing, sugarcane, oil seed, these are all rural industries. And if you come down to rural services, retailing and trading, in their village only, if they are trading in their village, exchanging their products, bartering their products, that becomes a rural services. Rural industries also include manufacturing of handloom and handicrafts, tanta, or the local sarees they used to do at their particular respective homes. The women of that particular village used to do the sari weaving kind of structure in their own house. At their own house, they have a set of machinery for that. They used to do. If you visit to Sambalpur side, you will see people or women of every house is having a room dedicated for this weaving, that is known as tamta room. If you come down to rural service, transport and storage. If someone is having use collection or the collection of fruits, they are storing it on the behalf of farmers. So this becomes a service to the farmer. Then in rural industries, construction is also included because people used to construct their house and people are engaged in that particular work and they are earning out of it. Rural services includes communication, that for receiving information and sending the information about agriculture, non-agriculture, politics, and any other kind of information sources. If you understand rural economic structure, you can easily understand the social background or social environment, because in the previous slide we understood every village has a different set of social environment, because they are involved in different type of economic activities. As per their economic activities, their social environment has been formed, or their society has been cultured or created. Social environment is again the occupation in rural sector that we discussed. Take for an instance the northeast part of the country in distant states like Arunachal Pradesh and Nagaland or Manipur or Tripura. Sikkim and northeast Assam of Meghalaya are quite different from each other due to their different types of economic activities. They are not exactly same to each other. They are majorly forming their social environment as per their economic activities. Can you think of how life in these villages could be? While agriculture will be the dominant force to reckon with, what are the other possible sources of livelihood? So if you want to cross check, you can always go by the information available online to see how these villages in the same locality or the same region or the same geographical land, how they are having different set of social environment as per their economic activities. You can also check it in your nearby villages. If your village is close to a water source or close to a river, most of the villages are dependent on fishing. If your village is far from the river sources, most of the village people are dependent on construction work or other than non-fishing jobs and non-farming jobs, because the water availability to that particular village is not that adequate. Critical factors to understand rural markets are lives and livelihood, role of women, education and empowerment, ownership of assets, and healthcare. Lives and livelihood in rural economic structure showcase the kind of activities that dominate rural landscape, that is simple understanding what they do for their daily life to be maintained. Along with agriculture, what are the non-farm sectors that are existing in rural belt? These are, a marketer needs to understand that. As land size holding reduces, last class we have understood that, and agriculture is increasingly being redefined. Most of the produce from these small holdings today caters the needs within the family and the locality, because land size reducing day by day. The scale of operation is restricted. In addition, there are issues of climate change, soil productivity, and cost of agri imports. Indeed, makes agriculture again a challenge for the villages. Migration is another challenge, where the people of village are migrating to the cities for the purpose of job and employment. Again, after COVID-19 and its aftermath brought signs of reverse migration, but that was not that prominent. The economy, when the economy opens up, the rural people are shifting back to the cities. Steady income, escape from these social taboos, and ability to experiment with different types of work remains the primary reason of this kind of migration. With the scheme like Manrega scheme, the government India has been hopeful, but it was not that established. Marketer must need to understand the population pressure remains the major challenge in thickly populated states of Uttar Pradesh and Bihar. There is a perennial scarcity of food and other goods. Non-farm has been an option along with agriculture. Villages are nowadays experimenting. There are multiple activities within the non-farm employment. If you can recall a brand called Lijjat Pampad, which is an initiative by Sri Mahila Griha Udyog. Lijjat Pampad is a national brand today. The brand had a humble beginning, and over the time, it has become a success story. It emerged as an option that SSG group, self-help group, explored, keeping in mind the need of having pampered in every meal. With sustained efforts over the time, they had made this Lijjat Pampad a brand. Nowadays, also we are using Lijjat Pampad. Other non-farm activities like retailing, transport and storage, construction, agro-processing, these are now slowly getting prominent and visible in rural sector also. After understanding lives and livelihood, let's understand the role of women in forming rural environment, social environment. Rural India has always been a seat for women workers to be engaged in different activities. Their contribution was never acknowledged or measured. With UNSDG, that is United Nations Sustainable Development Group, five focuses on equality for all women and children initiative was taken. The Ministry of Women and Children Welfare in India has also been working persistently towards uplifting the status of the women entrepreneur and helping them to gain equal status because they are also contributing to the economic environment of the village. The contribution of women in urban and urban parts are looked at differently. Though managing household is central to their activity, they are majorly engaged for household activities. But stepping out and helping in the economic activities are differently looked. If the women of the family is helping his husband in agricultural work, her work is not that acknowledged. Managing cattle, she is doing it. Helping the man at the farm, she is doing it. While men are away, managing home also a part of their responsibility. But they are not that acknowledged. So the Beti Padhao Beti Bachao initiative helps to escort in a future which is promising and encouraging for women. The challenges of girl child and the taboos associated are being helped to being reduced so that their voice is being now listened by the higher authorities. Issues like girls being a burden to homes are slowly and gradually being removed and is helping households immensely. After the role of women, it is the role of education and empowerment. The overall literacy rate in rural India is 64.7%, and the females being 56.8, and among the males 72.3. Programs like National Program for Education for Girls at Elementary Level 2003, cash incentive schemes such as Dhan Lakshmi initiatives, such as construction of toilets for girls, and campaigns such as Beti Bachao Beti Padhao have played an instrumental role in improving female literacy. Percentage of people with absolutely no education is now on decline side. Literacy rate is currently peaking at about 71%, which compares well to 84% of their urban counterparts. Yet the challenge still is to get children to school and further reduce the dropouts. The only real hope for success in accelerating rural development is by empowering larger numbers through education. The more they will be educated, the more they can understand business process and contribute to the economic activity. If you see this table, it is showing age-wise trend in education in rural India. In 2017 and 18, graduates and above are only at 5.7. In 2011, it was less than that. It is only at 3%. Literacy up to primary and middle class was 38% in 17, but during the time of 2011 it was 44%. So it is giving us a clarity how education and the age-wise trend in education in rural India looks like. Rural literacy in 2003, 60% was the rural literacy of the total population. In 2014, we are having 71% rural literacy rate compared to its population. Comparison of total number of schools in India in 2016 and 17, we are having 1.3 million schools in India. In 2019, it is almost 1.51. So there is a steady increase in creating school buildings and developing schools in rural area. Achha, the last critical factor is ownership of asset. This refers how they own the assets. The asset ownership in rural remains skewed. It is heavily dependent on the kind of regions and the land holding pattern they work. They consider land as their mother and they usually believe investing in land. After land, in South India, if you visit and if you observe, their behavior is to invest more on gold because they consider gold as a auspicious and cannot be parted with. Similarly, in other states, they have a different ownership, different behavior towards owning an asset. So next is socio-economic classes, understanding the socio-economic classes of the asset ownership. Market Research Society of India, MRSI, is engaged in studying the socio-economic assets Socio-economic classes of India. It is broadly divided. It is broadly classified how they own the land and how they own the gold. Universal structure of EC All India Rural. It provides the rural SEC or social economic class classification. G1, G3 provides a more smooth insight into the segment, which are the affluent segment can be seen through the picture. G1, G3 provides the affluent section and others provides the non-affluent sectors. The youth in rural India is opening up with new pockets of opportunities. They are close to internet. They are they are product oriented, brand oriented, educated about the business. Which didn't exist earlier, but nowadays youth India in rural belt are opening up to new pockets. Land remains the most preferred asset, yet it is not the cheap, especially in affluent states. Land prices are quite high. With rapid urbanization and frequent land acquisition, it throws a new perspective with respect to how wealth is being looked at. In the late 1980s, when Haryana government proposed to urbanize Gurgaon in village in the vicinity of Delhi, land acquisition form the farmers was the only way out. Farmers used to has to sell their land for the development of Gurgaon, and on the other hand they also received a hefty amount from the government. Post Gurgaon development, there are two kinds of former farmers: one who invested in sudden rush of wealth wisely and become more richer, and the other set who simply spoiled off the sudden burst of wealth and are now virtually on the roads. As the country is on the path of rapid urbanization, there are many such stories of the rags to riches and riches to rag, both the way. Both the way. Somebody has sold his land for the urbanization, received hefty amount, utilized it for the proper gain, and somebody has not done it. Looking at the entire picture of development, the asset-rich farmers will remain an outlier and not a part of mainstream story of the rural India. This is again the challenge. Those who are rich farmers, they are limited in numbers. They remain on the outlier of the mainstream of the rural India. Next is healthcare. After COVID-19 pandemic exposed the state of healthcare, people are not exposed to the right kind of health. If they are having problems in healthcare, they used to go for primary health center, then they used to go to the community health center. Nowadays, if the village is large in structure, they are having IUS facilities, but these are not up to the mark. The government spending has not really translated the real-time benefits in terms of healthcare. Take an instance, the AIMS facility in the heart of the national capital, considered the best in the country, but to get a ticket for the health checkup at AIMS is a real tough task. So government is in a position to improve the healthcare. One of the finest example of this has been the Arvind Eye Hospital in Tamil Nadu, which redefined affordable eye surgery for cataract. They were motivated enough through the vision of Dr. Venkataswamy, the owner and the founder of Arvind Eye Hospital. If models like this will establish in each village and state, then there will be a significant improvement in healthcare in rural belt. These are some data on rural healthcare. And beyond that, the last is technical environment, because we cannot deny internet, smartphone, and other gadgets. The rural segment was initially little slow to adapt the technologies, but slowly they are now adapting it due to the change in mindset and infrastructure infrastructure constraint. They were not adapting it, but nowadays they are slowly adapting it. Digital entered in the year 2016, demonetization happened, and this is the data where you can see the number of broadband internet subscriber in rural India in June 2021 by service area in millions. Share of online shoppers 2021 is having 32% online shoppers, 23 is having 54%. Major challenges in mainstreaming the digital mode: technology must add value rather than creating disruptions. And this is the final framework to understand how technology helps them to remain connected with the product and the marketers. And this framework helps marketer must remember that technology will work from three perspectives: as a means for communicating with rural markets, as a means for daily activities, and as a means for transactions, commercial and both non-commercial transaction. Let's summarize the entire session. The discussion in this unit throws light on the environment in rural India and the various factors which are important to understand the dynamics of rural markets. These factors help in closely evaluating the possibilities of a given area and also enable an understanding of heterogeneity of the rural markets in general. When marketers are approaching rural markets, the lens of one size fits all. This is again a myth, but the unit will myth. So the marketer has to innovate, customize his produce and his product to enter into the rural market. Thank you so much.